Yeah, you don't have to say anything, dude. I'm well aware that I'm dressed like a 31-year-old who hangs out at the local skate park and tells young girls they're very mature for their age. I know those guys are gross, but like I can't help but love them. The idea of someone who's like 10 years away from hitting the middle of their life, picking up a skateboard and saying to someone else, yeah, dude, let's go hit those grinds today. Steven, you're 31, you have a mortgage and a receding hairline. Go home. Stop buying 14-year-olds wine coolers and beer. It's weird, dude. And while you're at it, nobody wants you to blast your music through a speaker, dude. More than half of those kids weren't even born when Crawling came out in 2003. I don't think they even know what Linkin Park is. Yeah, this is what I call real music, guys. Why don't you losers go listen to your Justin Biebers?
Dude, what are you talking about? Justin Bieber isn't even popular anymore.
He's not?
Bro, his last big hit was 2015. My sister was born that year.
Oh my god, this is giving me a lot to think about, man. What's your sister like, though?
Dude, she's 8.
Yeah, but is she like a mature 8? But speaking of maturity, today we're going to talk about very mature themes, so I hope you have your big boy pants on, but let me warm up the words on my lips. TikTok is a very diverse platform that you can get a lot out of. For example, if you're a YouTuber, it's a rite of passage to do a video called Weird TikToks, and or Funny TikToks, and or I am dead inside, but I'm still going to watch TikTok. I'm aware that every example I just showed was of SS Sniper Wolf videos, but she's the first thing that shows up when you type in anything TikTok related on YouTube. And plus, personally, I don't have anything against her. I think Jack's Films was wrong in the whole ongoing stealing shit content debate. I think that abhorrent man was harassing her for months on end, and she had no choice but to go to his house. My baby princess can't do no wrong. Dudes, I'm well aware that it's a Hail Mary shot, but I ain't jeopardizing nothing. I mean, for the love of God, have you seen her husband or former husband? If that dude can get with her in the way that he got with her, there's a chance for me. Alternatively, just a minx, I know you've fallen from grace, but I can fix you. The only issue that I could foresee is I'm pretty sure she's taller than me, which is not an issue for me. I'm more than happy to get down on all fours and scale like a rat. Let's move forward, because if I stay on the path that I'm going on, it's gonna stop being funny and just kind of straight up be harassment. Because of TikTok's instant dopamine nature, you can be exposed to hundreds upon hundreds of different subgroups that you didn't know existed until that very afternoon. And unlike YouTube, TikTok will actually feed you what you like. Whereas YouTube, for some reason, only feeds you like one new guy every year. And they don't listen to the not interested thing at all. No, YouTube, for the 1050th time, I do not want to watch Mr. Beast. He makes good videos, but they're too fast for me. I am an old man who wants to look at weird, obscure channels. Like this dude who I've been subscribed to for years now, who just goes around different parts of the US reviewing different toilets. Give me more of that! Anywho, today we are going to be talking about one of those very TikTok communities, and more specifically, the cosplay community. Whether it's a guy who spends a year and hundreds of thousands of dollars developing one of the most impressive pieces of art you've ever seen in your life, a woman giving birth to a My Hero Academia character whose name I can't recall because that show sucks balls, and or a woman dressing up as your favorite characters from anime and cartoons while showing as much skin as humanly possible, and it definitely isn't just a thinly veiled disguise for an OnlyFans promotion. The community can be quite varied and have a lot of different heads of state. Like in the commentary community, for example, it's undeniable that the short king amongst all kings is Moist Critical. How in the football community and FIFA community on YouTube, it's undeniable that IShowSpeed as well as the Sidemen are probably the biggest names. Cosplayers are no different in this regard. You have your creme de la crop, and the only name that I can think of from that end is Amarith because I'm not heavily involved. The bloke we're going to be talking about today was quite high up in their world, was being the key word. He went by the name Inquisitor, a TikToker and a cosplayer who heavily focused on Call of Duty, who unfortunately in recent days took his own life. A tragedy in its own right, but it gets much worse when you find out the circumstances of how it occurred. In fact, in a very rare and not often occurring showing, we know exactly what caused Inquisitor's suicide directly. So let me take you back a couple months ago. Inquisitor, being a budding content creator that he is, starts to get a little bit more lazy. I'm not trying to talk condescending to anybody watching this, because I'm pretty sure everybody and their mother does video editing in some form, but for your average person who likes to make these types of videos consistently, it's a very similar relationship that you would have with your dad. Sometimes you love each other and you tongue kiss, but more often than not, your file keeps crashing and your dad can't stop fucking you from behind. However, luckily for Inquisitor, he was able to avoid his dad, because as a budding content creator, you quite often get messages from different editors looking for work. Our friend Inquisitor happened to get a particular message from a woman named X. That's not her real name, but that's how I'm going to refer to her as, because unlike X, I'm not a monster and I believe in forgiveness. X and Inquisitor begin working together. He would do his silly little dances, his lightsaber duels, and whatever else he was up to, send the footage off to X, Wimbo Bambo, and X would send it back fully completed. And this is where the story starts to get a little bit muddy and dirty. X, our editor in question is 17 years old. Inquisitor, on the other hand, happens to be the ripe old age of 23. As well as being 23 and practically near 100, he also unfortunately happens to be Italian, a fact that is relevant right now. Every single time that Inquisitor received a commission off X, he would send her messages such as "thank you honey" and "I love you so much." Flirtatious messages, absolutely. But here's the thing. One, he's Italian and they're all perverts, and number two, it explicitly said in Inquisitor's bio he didn't want anyone under the age of 18 messaging him. So Inquisitor was operating under the assumption that X was over the age of 18. An assumption that's totally not unreasonable considering, again, his bio did say he didn't want anyone under the age of 18 messaging him. Could he have done a little bit more research and could he have prodded a few more times? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. But X didn't bother to tell him. Instead of telling Inquisitor directly her age, she opted to go to her boyfriend, a man by the name of Tito, who's also heavily involved in the cosplay community, with the intention of exposing Inquisitor as a predator online. A fact he wasn't even aware of, again mind you. Now here comes the part where I'm going to have to do quite a few assumptions based on the information that we have. And every time I do make assumptions, I'm going to leave a little message saying so. 6 to 8 months go by, and at this point I believe that Inquisitor was probably made aware of X's age. At such a time, I believe that Inquisitor cut ties off with X, because as he said explicitly, he wanted only people over the age of 18. Upon being fired from Inquisitor, I believe X was bitter, and desperately wanted to get revenge on him any way she could. Whoa, hang on, I hear you saying. What makes you think that way? Well, logically speaking, if X did consider Inquisitor to be a dangerous predator online, why would she sit on her hands underneath her ass and farting into it for about 6 to 8 months, instead of doing something with those messages? Furthermore, those messages only became relevant again in her mind when she wanted to hurt the guy. Now, none of these messages exchanged between X and Inquisitor were sexual in nature. It was light flirting. And this is the part that's gonna make your stomach turn. X, upon going to her boyfriend Tito and explaining that now all of a sudden she wanted to expose him as this dangerous predator, her boyfriend Tito came up with a plan that can only be described as entrapment. In Tito's own words, "It's not a life or death crisis, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep flirting with him and see where it goes. If he starts to get sexual, then I will expose him. We need better and more proof." X, absolutely ravenous at the thought and the idea of destroying her former boss's life, agrees, and sets out on a merry way, trying her best to engage Inquisitor in sexual conversation, all of which Inquisitor flat out rejects and says he's not interested, leading X to up the scales and even go as far to lie at Inquisitor and tell him that she is not underage, to which he also still says, "No, I'm not interested." Let's rapid recap. Inquisitor makes it absolutely clear that he doesn't want any minors messaging him. Even so, he should have done his due diligence fair, but the worst messages of Inquisitor being inappropriate are these. Now, I'm sorry guys, I'm not being funny or anything. To me, this doesn't scream pedo. To me, this screams European. I can practically smell the cigarette smoke behind his keyboard while he goes, Is it inappropriate in a professional setting? Absolutely. But it's an insanely far cry from being a pedo. A fact that X is well aware of, because her next step is gonna make your jaw drop. X then decided to contact another TikToker by the name of Keegan's Mask and expose Inquisitor for being a pedo. Thing is though, she's very selective with the messages she sends. She only sends these messages completely out of context and doesn't include the fact that she was completely rejected at a later date. Keegan's Mask unfortunately ran with the story, and when there's fire, there's flame. People not knowing the full story grabbed whatever pitchforks they could and charged down Inquisitor at the gates. Doxing and death threats were the least of his worries. His reputation was completely shattered overnight by a silly lie, perpetrated by a silly little girl who doesn't understand that her silly little lie can destroy someone's real life, and not just his own anymore. Feeling the public pressure and feeling the hatred that was being poured on top of him, Inquisitor did a live stream on TikTok and hung himself right there on the live. It's incredibly easy for people to think that there's only one victim when it comes to suicide, but your loved ones are in just as much pain as you are. Tito, X, and Keegan. It's very clear to me that some of you were misled in this situation, but it's also clear to me that only one person was 110% at fault in this situation. X, you're young, and young people make mistakes, but most young people don't make the mistake of having blood on their hands. You've ruined more than just one life. Every single one of his close friends and family members will forever be devastated. His father, who had to find his own son's body, will never be the same again. You've ruined lives, and if there is a God, he might forgive you. Maybe Inquisitor might as well. In most of these videos, I try to be as silly as possible, but occasionally I do feel like a somber message is required. Please understand that your accusations can go to extremes, and please don't tread lightly on the words that you say, especially when you're affecting a real human being. Rest well, Vincent Pilchik, and I hope from the bottom of my heart that you found peace. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.